and welcome to another episode of the Literary Lutheran Reads a Book of Concord. Today we are continuing with Article 28, Church Authority, and we will be reading from section 12 to 38. Therefore, the Church's authority and the state's authority must not be confused. The Church's authority has its own commission to teach the gospel and to administer the sacraments. Matthew 28:19-20. Let it not break into the office of another. Let it not transfer the kingdoms of this world to itself. Let it not abolish the laws of civil rulers. Let it not abolish lawful obedience. Let it not interfere with judgments about civil ordinances or contracts. Let it not dictate laws to civil authorities about the form of society. As Christ says, "My kingdom is not of this world," John 18:36. Also, "Who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" Luke 12:14. Paul also says our citizenship is in heaven, Philippians 3:20. And, "The weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds," 2 Corinthians 10:4. This is how our teachers distinguish between the duties of these two authorities. They command that both be honored and acknowledged as God's gifts and blessings. If bishops have any authority of the state, this is not because they are bishops. In other words, it is not by the gospel's commission. It is an authority they have received from kings and emperors for the purpose of administering the civil affairs of what belongs to them in society. This is another office, not the ministry of the gospel. Therefore, when a question arises about the bishop's jurisdiction, civil authority must be distinguished from the church's jurisdiction. Again, the only authority that belongs to the bishops is what they have according to the gospel, or by divine right, as they say. For they have been given the ministry of the word and sacraments. They have no other authority according to the gospel than the authority to forgive sins, to judge doctrine, to reject doctrines contrary to the gospel, and to exclude from the communion of the church wicked people whose wickedness is known. They cannot exclude people with human force, but simply by the word. According to this gospel authority, as a matter of necessity, by divine right, congregations must obey them, for Luke 10:16 says, "The one who hears you hears me." But when they teach or establish anything against the gospel, then the congregations are forbidden by God's command to obey them. Beware of false prophets, Matthew 7:15. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one we preach to you, let him be accursed, Galatians 1:8. For we cannot do anything against the truth, but only for the truth. The authority that the Lord has given me for building up and not for tearing down, 2 Corinthians 13:8-10. The canonical laws also command this, and Augustine writes, "Neither must we submit to Catholic bishops if they chance to err, or hold anything contrary to the canonical scriptures of God. If the bishops have any other authority or jurisdiction in hearing and judging certain cases, as of matrimony or tithes, they have this authority only by human right. If the bishops do not carry out their duties in these areas, the princes are bound, even if they do not want to dispense justice to their subjects in order to maintain peace. There is also a dispute about whether or not bishops or pastors have the right to introduce ceremonies in the church and to make laws about meats, holy days, and grades, that is, orders of ministers, and so on. Those who say that bishops do have this right refer to the testimony of Christ in John 16:12-13. "I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth." They also refer to the example of the apostles who commanded that Christians abstain from blood and from things strangled. Acts 15:20-29. They refer to the Sabbath day as having been changed into the Lord's day, contrary to the Decalogue as they understand it. In fact, they make more of the supposed change of the Sabbath day than any other example they can think of. They say that the Church's authority is so great it has even done away with one of the 10 Commandments. But on this question, for our part, as we have shown earlier, we teach that bishops have no authority to decree anything against the gospel. The canonical laws teach them the same thing. It is against Scripture to establish or require the observance of any traditions for the purpose of making satisfaction for sins or to merit grace and righteousness. When we try to merit justification by observing such things, we cause great harm to the glory of Christ's merit. It is quite clear that by such beliefs, traditions have almost multiplied to an infinite degree in the Church, while at the same time the doctrine about faith and the righteousness through faith has been suppressed. Gradually, more holy days were made, fasts appointed, new ceremonies and services in honor of saints instituted. Those responsible for such things thought that by these works they were meriting grace, so the penitential canons increased. We still see some traces of this in the satisfactions. This has been the Literary Lutheran Reads the Book of Concord, and I wish you a blessed day.